Jake Morrison was drinking his morning coffee when everything changed. He sat at his station on the space monitoring post called Frontier Watch. The coffee was terrible, but it helped him stay awake during the long night shifts. Outside the windows, stars filled the darkness of space. Jake had been working at this remote station for 2 years. His job was simple. Watch the empty space at the edge of human territory. Listen for any strange signals or ships that might be coming toward Earth. Most days, nothing happened at all. Amy Richardson sat at the communications desk nearby. She was young and smart, fresh out of the Space Academy. Amy liked her job because she got to work with all the fancy radio equipment. She spent most of her time listening to static and checking that all the systems worked properly. "Morning," Amy said, adjusting her headset. "Nothing but background noise from the nebula." Jake nodded and took another sip of his bad coffee. The nebula was a big cloud of gas and dust about 50 light-years away. It was pretty to look at, but it sometimes made weird radio signals that could fool their equipment. Then Amy's face changed. She sat up straight and put her hand on her headset. "Wait, I'm getting something." "What kind of something?" Jake asked. He put down his coffee and walked over to her station. "It's weak. It's really weak, but it's not natural." Amy typed on her keyboard. "Trying to clean up the signal? This is artificial. Someone is broadcasting this." Jake leaned over her shoulder to look at the screen. He saw wavy lines that showed the signal strength. It was very faint, but it had a pattern. Natural space noise never had patterns like this. "Can you make it clearer?" Amy worked on her controls. Slowly, the signal got a little stronger. Now they could hear something that sounded almost like voices. But the voices were strange. They spoke in a language that neither Jake nor Amy had ever heard before. "This isn't human," Amy said quietly. "We're listening to aliens." Jake felt his heart beat faster. In all his years working in space, he had never heard proof that other intelligent life existed. Earth scientists had always wondered if humans were alone in the universe. Now they had their answer. "Record everything," Jake told Amy, "and see if the computer can translate any of it." Amy started recording the alien signal. She also fed it into the translation computer that had samples of many Earth languages. Maybe the computer could find patterns that would help them understand what the aliens were saying. While they waited, Jake called his boss. Admiral Lisa Crawford ran the Deep Space Monitoring Program from Earth. She needed to know about this right away. "Admiral Crawford here," came the voice through the communicator. "Admiral, this is Morrison at Frontier Watch. We have a situation. We're receiving what appears to be an alien transmission." There was a long pause. "Are you certain it's not equipment malfunction?" "Yes, ma'am. Amy Richardson has confirmed it. The signal has clear artificial patterns and what sounds like voices. Speaking an unknown language? Send me everything you have. I'll get our best people working on it immediately." While Jake talked to the Admiral, Amy kept working on the signal. The translation computer was making progress. It had found some repeating words and sounds. Slowly, a few English words started appearing on her screen. "Jake, look at this," Amy called out. "The computer is starting to translate some of it." Jake rushed back to her station. On the screen, he could see fragments of English mixed with the alien language. The words were broken and unclear, but some of them were scary. "Help ... dying. Power failing ... children." Amy made the signal even clearer. More words appeared. "Ship damaged. Life support critical. Please respond ... coordinates follow." "They're in trouble," Jake said. "This isn't just a message. It's a distress call." The aliens kept broadcasting. Computer kept translating. Soon they had a clearer picture of what was happening. An alien ship was badly damaged. Their power was almost gone. People on the ship were dying, including children. They were asking for help from anyone who could hear them. Then came the coordinates, numbers that showed exactly where the alien ship was located. Jake checked the position on his star charts. The ship was far away, deep in unexplored space. "Jake," Amy said, her voice shaking, "there's more coming through." The translation computer had found more words. These were different. It talked about attackers, about weapons, about a war that the aliens were losing. Ship attacked by Kraxan forces. Unprovoked assault. We are peaceful explorers. ...
Oh.
They destroyed our engines for sport. Jake felt sick reading these words. Someone had attacked peaceful explorers. Just for fun, the aliens had done nothing wrong. They were scientists, not soldiers. More translated words appeared on the screen. We know humans value life above all else. If you receive this, ... please help. We have children aboard. They're innocent. ... Jake stared at the screen. These aliens knew about humans. Somehow, they had learned that humans cared about protecting innocent people. They were sending their distress call toward human space because they hoped humans would help them. Amy was crying now. Jake, there are kids on that ship. Alien kids, but still kids. They're going to die if nobody helps them. Jake looked at the coordinates again. The alien ship was very far away. It would take days to reach them, even with the fastest human ships. And the ship was in dangerous territory, where these cracks and attackers might still be hunting. He called Admiral Crawford again. Admiral, we have a translation of the alien message. It's a distress call. They're asking for our help. How many? Survivors. Jake looked at Amy's screen where new numbers had appeared. 37 beings, Admiral, including children. Another long pause from Admiral Crawford. Morrison, you understand the implications. We've never made contact with alien life before. We don't know anything about galactic politics or who these cracks and attackers are. Sending ships could start a war. But Admiral, they're dying. Kids are dying, I know. Morrison, send me all the data. I need to talk to the President and the Space Command Council. This decision is bigger than both of us. After Jake ended the call, he and Amy sat quietly listening to the alien distress signal. It was getting weaker. The aliens' power was failing fast. Soon they wouldn't be able to broadcast at all. Do you think we'll help them? Amy asked. Jake didn't know. Earth had always stayed out of other people's fights. Humans had enough problems. Without getting involved in alien wars? But as he listened to the desperate voices calling for help, he knew one thing for certain. If it was up to him, he would go. No matter how dangerous it was, no matter what it might cost. Because some things were more important than being safe. Some things were worth the risk. 3 hours after the alien distress call came in, Jake Morrison got the answer he was hoping for. Admiral Crawford's voice came through the communicator with news that made his heart race. Morrison, we're sending a rescue mission. The President has authorized it. We can't just let innocent people die when we have the power to help them. Jake smiled for the first time that day. What are your orders, Admiral? You're going to lead the mission? Take the light cruiser Defiant. It's fast and has good defensive systems. Pick your crew carefully. This won't be easy. Jake had commanded rescue missions before, but never anything like this. He was going to be the first human to make contact with an alien species. The thought scared and excited him at the same time. The Defiant was waiting at the nearby military station. It was a good ship, built for speed and exploration rather than fighting. Jake chose his crew from volunteers who wanted to help with the mission. Dr. Nina Foster was the first person to volunteer. She was a scientist who studied how different forms of life might work. She had spent years wondering what aliens might be like. Now she would find out. I've been preparing for this my whole career, Dr. Foster told Jake as they walked through the ship. I've studied every theory about alien biology, but I'm still nervous. What if I can't help them? You'll figure it out, Jake said. You always do. Master Sergeant Cole Bennett led the security team. He was a tough soldier who had seen combat before, but he also cared about protecting people who couldn't protect themselves. Do we know anything about these cracks and attackers? Bennett asked during the mission briefing. Not much, Jake admitted. From what the aliens said, they're aggressive and well-armed. They attack peaceful ships for no good reason. We need to be ready for trouble. Clark was the navigation officer. She was young, but very good at plotting courses through dangerous space. Her job was to get them to the alien ship without being detected by enemies. The coordinates put the alien ship in an asteroid field, Emma reported. That's good and bad news. The asteroids will hide us from enemy sensors, but they'll also make flying dangerous. One wrong move, and we could crash into a rock. Alex Turner was the chief engineer. He was working with Dr. Foster to modify the ship's life support systems. They needed to be ready to help aliens who might breathe different air or need different temperatures to survive. We're setting up emergency medical areas, Alex explained. Dr. Foster thinks the aliens might need special care. We're also boosting our air recycling systems in case we need to support more people than usual. As the Defiant traveled toward the alien ship, the crew learned more about their mission. Intelligence officers on Earth had been studying the alien transmissions. They had discovered disturbing information about the Kraxan Empire. The Kraxans were not just aggressive, they were cruel. They hunted peaceful species for sport. They destroyed ships and killed everyone aboard, not for resources or territory, because they enjoyed causing suffering. The alien ship they were going to rescue belonged to the Velthani people. The Velthani were explorers and scientists. They had never developed weapons because they had never needed them. Their whole society was built around learning and discovery. It's horrible, Dr. Foster said as she read the intelligence reports. The Velthani ship was completely defenseless. The Kraxans attacked them just to test their new weapons on living targets. Jake felt anger building inside him. He had seen many cruel things in his military career, but this was different. These weren't soldiers fighting soldiers. This was murder of innocent people. The crew also learned something that made the mission even more urgent. Earth's intelligence services had discovered that humanity was on the Kraxan target list. The alien empire was planning to expand into human space. They saw humans as another weak species, to be conquered or destroyed. So this isn't just a rescue mission, Bennett said grimly. It's also reconnaissance. We need to learn what we're up against. 2 days into the journey, they received another transmission from the alien ship. It was much weaker than before. The Velthani were running out of power fast. Amy Richardson would come along as communications officer, work to translate the new message. Her hands shook as she typed the English words that appeared on her screen. Power critical. Support failing. 17 survivors lost. Please hurry. ... Double quotes. The number hit everyone hard. 17 aliens had already died. That left only 20 survivors, and some of them might not last much longer. Can we go faster? Jake asked Emma. Emma shook her head. We're already pushing the engines as hard as we can. If we go any faster, we might damage something important. Dr. Foster was working frantically to prepare for the rescue. She had no idea what alien biology would be like, but she was doing her best to get ready for anything. I've prepared medicines that should work on most carbon-based life forms, she told Jake. But I won't know for sure until I see them. I might have to improvise treatments. Katie Walsh, the ship's medical officer, was helping Dr. Foster set up emergency treatment areas. They had prepared beds with adjustable atmosphere controls and temperature settings. We're ready for anything from ice-cold methane breathers to desert dwellers who need extreme heat, Katie reported. At least I hope we are. On the third day, they reached the edge of the asteroid field where the alien ship was located. Emma carefully guided the Defiant between the floating rocks. Some of the asteroids were as big as cities. Others were small chunks that could damage the hull if they hit at high speed. Sensors are having trouble in all this debris, reported Danny Brooks from the communications station. But I'm picking up the alien ship's emergency beacon. It's very weak. Jake studied the sensor readings on his command screen. The asteroid field was like a maze of floating mountains. Finding one small ship in all this debris would be difficult. Then Alex Turner reported something that made everyone worried. I'm detecting energy signatures that don't match the alien ship, he said. There's something else in this asteroid field. Something big. Emma ran the energy patterns through the ship's computer. When the results came back, her face went pale. It's a warship, she said quietly. The computer matches the energy signature. 2 military-grade weapons and shields. There's a Kraxan ship in here with us. Jake felt his stomach drop. The rescue mission had just become much more dangerous. Not only did they have to save dying aliens, they had to do it while avoiding detection by their enemies. Can we tell if they know we're here? He asked. Danny worked on his sensors. I don't think so. The asteroids are blocking most sensor sweeps. But if we get too close, they'll spot us for sure. Jake made a decision that would change everything. We're not leaving without those survivors. We'll just have to be extra careful. Bennett checked his weapon systems. If we get discovered, we'll be outgunned. That's a destroyer out there. We're just a light cruiser. Then we better not get discovered, Jake said, as the Defiant crept deeper into the asteroid field. Everyone on the crew understood what they were risking. They were alone, far from any help, approaching a dying alien ship while enemy warships hunted in the same area, but none of them suggested turning back.
Ow.
The distress call had said there were children aboard the alien ship. Innocent people were dying while they waited for rescue. Emma found a path through the asteroids that would bring them. Close to the alien ship, while staying hidden from the Kraxan destroyer, it was dangerous flying, but it was their only chance. There, Danny said suddenly. I've got the alien ship on sensors. It's dead in space. No power readings at all. Through the view screen, they could see the Velthani vessel. It was beautiful. In a strange way, with curved lines and smooth surfaces, very different from human ship designs. But it was also clearly damaged. Parts of the hull were torn open, and debris floated around it. Life signs? Jake asked. Dr. Foster checked her medical. Sensors. Faint, but yes. There are still people alive on that ship, barely. Jake looked at his crew. They were about to attempt the most dangerous rescue in human history. If they succeeded, they would save innocent lives and make humanity's first contact with an alien species. If they failed, they would all die far. From home. All right, everyone, he said. Let's go save some lives. 2 weeks after the rescue mission, Captain Zara Velthan stood before the Galactic Council on the neutral station Deep Space Nine. Her blue blood had been replaced, her wounds had healed, and she was alive because humans had risked everything. To save her people, the council chamber was filled with representatives from dozens of species. Most of them had never heard of humans before. Now they all wanted to know about these strange new people who had dared to fight the Kraxan Empire. Jake Morrison sat in the human delegation area, wearing his dress uniform and feeling very uncomfortable. 3 weeks ago, he had been a simple space monitor. Now he was humanity's first ambassador to the galaxy. Admiral Lisa Crawford, now promoted to Fleet Admiral, stood to address the council. Behind her, a holographic display showed images of the rescued Velthani survivors, including the children who were now safe on a human medical station. Honorable Council members, Admiral Crawford began. 3 weeks ago, humanity received its first communication from another intelligent species. It was a cry for help from people who were dying far from home. The council listened in complete silence. Many of the alien representatives looked nervous. For years, they had lived in fear of the Kraxan Empire, but none had ever dared to fight. We could have ignored that call, Admiral Crawford continued. We could have decided it was not our problem. We could have chosen the safe path and stayed out of galactic politics. But that's not who we are. Captain Velthon rose from her seat in the witness area. Her voice carried clearly through the chamber's translation systems. Us knowing it was dangerous. They came knowing they might start a war. They came because children were dying, and children should not die while adults do nothing. A representative from the Thorian Confederacy, a species that looked like giant insects, clicked his mandibles nervously. Captain Velthon, we all sympathize with your situation, but the Kraxans are too powerful. Resistance only makes them more angry. Captain Velthon's large eyes flashed with something that might have been anger. The humans destroyed a Kraxan destroyer with a single light cruiser. They proved that the Empire can be beaten. Murmurs rippled through the council chamber. Several representatives leaned forward in their seats. The Thorian representative clicked his mandibles again. One battle does not win a war. The Kraxans have hundreds of ships. They will seek revenge for this humiliation. That's when Dr. Nina Foster stood up. She had spent the last 2 weeks caring for the Velthani survivors and learning about galactic politics. Her voice was calm but firm. You're right. The Kraxans will seek revenge, but not just against humans. They'll take their anger out on every peaceful species in this sector. They'll hunt you down one by one, just like they hunted the Velthane. Dr. Foster activated a holographic display showing Kraxan ship movements over the past year. Red dots. Marked attacks on peaceful vessels. There were dozens of them. Look at this pattern, she said. The Kraxans have been testing their weapons on defenseless ships for months. They're preparing for a major expansion. Every species in this region is on their target list. The chamber fell silent as the representatives studied the display. The pattern was clear and terrifying. A delegate from the Crystal Singer's beings, made of living mineral, spoke in a voice like wind chimes. "What do you propose, Dr. Foster?" "You propose an alliance," Dr. Foster said. "Not just a treaty or a trade agreement. A real alliance where we work together to defend each other." The Thorian representatives' mandibles clicked rapidly. "The humans have fought one battle. What makes you think you can protect all of us?" Jake Morrison stood up. He hadn't planned to speak, but he couldn't stay silent. "Because that's what we do," he said simply. "We protect people who can't protect themselves. We stand up to bullies. We don't abandon our friends." He gestured toward Captain Velthan. 3 weeks ago, we didn't know these people existed. When they called for help, we answered. That's not going to change just because the job gets harder. Captain Velthan walked to the center of the chamber. "I have seen human courage. I have seen human compassion. When my people were dying, when our children were crying in the darkness, the humans came. They risked their lives for strangers." Turned to face the full council. "But I have also seen human strength. They fought a Kraxan destroyer and won. They showed that the Empire is not invincible." A new voice spoke from the gallery. It was Amy Richardson, who had been the first to receive the Velthani distress call. She had come to the council station as part of the human delegation. "If we work together," Amy said, "we can do more than just defend ourselves. We can build something better. A galaxy where people help each other instead of preying on the weak." Debate that followed lasted for hours. Some council members were afraid of angering the Kraxans. Others thought the humans were too new to the galaxy to be trusted. But gradually, the mood began to shift. Species after species stood up to share their own stories of Kraxan attacks. The flower people told of science ships destroyed for sport. The metal workers described mining colonies wiped out to test new weapons. The star dancers spoke of artists murdered simply because they were beautiful. Finally, the vote was called. One by one, the council members cast their votes. The Crystal Singers voted yes. The flower people voted yes. Star dancers voted yes. Even the nervous Thorian Confederacy voted yes. When the final tally was announced, 43 species had voted to join the new Terran Defense Alliance. Only 7 had voted no, and most of those were already under Kraxan control. Fleet Admiral Crawford stood again. "The alliance will be based on simple principles. We protect the innocent. We defend the weak. We stand together against tyranny. Any species that shares these values is welcome to join us." As the council session ended, Jake found himself surrounded by alien diplomats wanting to learn more about humanity. But the conversation that mattered most was with Captain Velthan. "Captain?" "Morrison," she said, "my people have a saying. The strong tree bends in the storm but does not break. I think humans are strong trees. We're not perfect," Jake admitted. "We make mistakes. We have our own problems to solve." "Yes, Captain," Velthan agreed. "But when someone calls for help, you answer. That is rare in this galaxy." 6 months later, Jake stood on the bridge of the new flagship Indomitable. The ship was 3 times larger than the Defiant, with weapons and shields designed specifically for fighting Kraxan vessels. More importantly, it carried a mixed crew of humans and aliens working together. Captain Velthan served as the ship's first alien liaison officer. Dr. Foster ran the medical bay where human and alien doctors learned from each other. Emma Clark had been promoted to navigation commander and was training alien pilots in human tactics. The Kraxan Empire had tried to retaliate against the new alliance. They found themselves facing organized resistance for the first time. In their history, species that had been prey were now predators. Ships that had run from Kraxan attacks now stood and fought. Jake was reading reports from across the galaxy when Amy Richardson, now his communications chief, brought him a message that made him smile. "Captain, we're receiving a distress call." From the Outer Rim, A species called the Cloud Swimmers is under attack by Kraxan raiders. Jake looked at the star chart showing the location of the attack. It was far away, in dangerous territory where the Alliance had never operated before. "How many ships are we talking about?" he asked. 3 Kraxan destroyers attacking a civilian convoy. Probably 50 or 60 civilians on those ships. Jake activated the ship-wide communication system. "All hands. This is the captain.
We have
A distress call from people who need our help. It's going to be dangerous, and it's going to be a fight. But that's what we signed up for." He paused, thinking about how much had changed since that first weak signal Amy had detected at Frontier Watch. "Anyone who wants to answer that call, report to your stations. Anyone who doesn't, no hard feelings. But I'm going." Within minutes, every station on the ship was manned. Not just humans, but aliens from a dozen species. All volunteers who had joined the Alliance because they believed in its mission as the indomitable jump to hyperspace. Jake thought about Captain Velthan S. Words about strong trees. Maybe she was right. Maybe humans were strong trees that bent but didn't break. But more importantly, they had taught the galaxy something new. They had shown that strength wasn't about who had the biggest weapons or the most ships. Real strength was about who answered. When someone called for help, the last transmission the Cloud Swimmers received before the Alliance fleet arrived carried a simple message that had become famous across the galaxy. "This is the Terran Defense Alliance. We received your distress call. Help is on the way. Hold on." And in dozens of languages across hundreds of worlds. The response was always the same. "When the darkness comes, call for the humans. They will answer." The Kraxan destroyer Blood Talon emerged from behind a massive asteroid like a predator stalking its prey. Jake Morrison watched through the view screen as the enemy ship's weapons came online, their targeting systems scanning the area where the human and alien vessels were hidden. "They know we're here," Danny Brooks reported from his communications station aboard the Defiant. "They're sending out active sensor sweeps." Jake was still on the alien ship with half the rescue team and 10 survivors who were too injured to move quickly. Time had run out. In minutes, the Kraxan ship would find them. Emma Clark's voice came through the communicator. "Jake, we need to move now. I can't hide us much longer." Jake looked at the remaining alien survivors. Captain Zara Velthan was barely conscious, her blue blood seeping from wounds that Dr. Foster hadn't had time to properly treat. 3 alien children huddled together, too scared to cry. The adults who could still stand were trying to help the injured ones. "Emma," Jake said into his communicator, "you need to take the Defiant and the survivors we already got aboard to safety." "We're not leaving without you," Emma replied firmly.
us.
"That's an order. Get those people to safety. We'll find another way." But Jake knew there was no other way. The alien ship had no power and couldn't move. They were trapped. That's when Chief Weapons Officer Brad Cooper came up with a desperate plan. "Jake, what if we use the alien ship's fuel reserves? Their engines are destroyed, but they might still have fuel cells. If we overload them, we could create an explosion big enough to damage the Kraxan ship and kill everyone still on the alien ship," Bennett pointed out. "Not if we time it right," Brad said. "We rig the fuel cells to explode after we're clear. Use the explosion as cover to escape." It was dangerous and probably wouldn't work. But it was the only chance they had. Jake made his decision. "Do it, but we're not leaving without everyone." The next few minutes were the most intense of Jake's life. While Brad and Alex Turner worked to rig the alien fuel cells into a makeshift bomb, Dr. Foster and Katie Walsh desperately tried to stabilize the remaining survivors for emergency transport. Captain Velthan grabbed Jake's arm with surprising strength. "Captain Morrison," she whispered, "you must know. The Kraxans have a weakness. They are arrogant. They think all other species are cowards. They do not expect anyone to fight back. What are you saying? Stand up to them. Show them that humans are not afraid. They will not know how to respond." Just then, a voice boomed through space on all communication frequencies. It was speaking in heavily accented English. "Human vessel, this is General Vexter of the Kraxan Empire. You will surrender immediately and prepare to be boarded." Jake looked at his team. They all looked back at him, waiting for his decision. He could surrender and hope the Kraxans would show mercy. But he had seen what they did to peaceful aliens. Mercy wasn't in their nature. Instead, Jake opened a communication channel to the Kraxan ship. General Vexstar, this is Captain Jake Morrison of the human vessel Defiant. We are conducting a rescue operation. We have no hostile intentions toward your empire. The alien general's laughter was cold and cruel. Rescue operation?
You mean?
You are stealing our prey. These Velthani belong to us now. We were not finished testing our weapons on them. Jake felt anger burn in his chest. These are not your prey. They are innocent people who were attacked without provocation. We're taking them to safety. You will surrender now, or we will destroy your ship and take the survivors anyway. You have 1 minute to decide. Jake looked around at the alien children and injured adults depending on him. He thought about the human crew aboard the Defiant who had volunteered for this mission. He thought about Earth and how the Kraxans planned to attack human colonies next. Alex, is that bomb ready? He asked. Quietly. 30 seconds and we're good to go, Alex replied, sweat running down his face as he worked. Jake opened the communication channel again. General Vexstar, you made one mistake. What mistake is that? Human? You assumed we'd abandon them like. You would. That's not who we are. Jake cut the communication and activated his ship-wide channel. All hands, prepare for emergency departure. This is going to get rough. The final evacuation was chaos. Bennett and his Marines carried the most injured aliens while Dr. Foster supported Captain Velthan. The alien children were terrified, but Katie Walsh kept them calm with her gentle voice and steady hands. Fuel cells are rigged, Alex reported. 10-minute timer starting now. He raced through the connecting tube to the Defiant as the Kraxan destroyer moved closer. Jake was the last one across, sealing the tube behind him just as the enemy ship's weapons locked onto their position. Emma, get us out of here, Jake shouted as he reached the bridge. The Defiant's engines roared to life, pushing the ship away from the alien vessel at maximum speed. Behind them, the Kraxan destroyer followed, its massive weapons charging up for a killing shot. They're targeting our engines, reported Brad from the weapons station. If they hit us, we're dead in space. The first Kraxan energy blast missed. The Defiant by meters, the heat from the weapons discharge washing over their shields. Emma threw the ship into a steep dive between two asteroids, using the rocks for cover. Where's that explosion? Right, Jake demanded. 3 minutes, Alex replied, watching his timer. 3 minutes felt like 3 hours as Emma flew the Defiant through the asteroid field with the Kraxan destroyer in pursuit. The enemy ship was bigger and more powerful, but the human ship was faster and more maneuverable. The second energy blast caught the Defiant's rear shields, sending power fluctuations throughout the ship. In the medical bay, Dr. Foster was thrown against a wall while trying to treat the alien survivors. Shields. Down to 60%, Brad, reported Captain Velthan, despite her injuries, had managed to make it to the bridge. She looked at the tactical display showing the positions of both ships. Captain Morrison, she said weakly, there is something else you should know about Kraxan tactics. They always broadcast their victories to other ships in their fleet. You defeat this destroyer, word will spread that humans cannot be easily conquered. Jake understood. This wasn't just about rescuing the Velthani survivors. This was about showing the entire Kraxan Empire that humanity wouldn't be an easy target. The timer reached 0. The alien ship's fuel cells exploded in a brilliant flash of light that lit up the entire asteroid field. The explosion was much bigger than anyone expected, sending a shockwave that threw both the Defiant and the Kraxan destroyer off course, but the explosion did more than create a diversion. Pieces of asteroids, superheated by the blast, flew through space like bullets. Several large chunks slammed into the Kraxan destroyer's hull, punching holes in their armor. Their shields are down, Brad shouted. The debris damaged their main power systems. Emma saw their chance. She brought the Defiant around in a tight loop, bringing them face to face with the wounded Kraxan ship. Jake, Brad said their weapons are still online. If we get too close, they'll tear us apart. Jake looked at the Kraxan destroyer on his screen. It was still much more powerful than the Defiant, even damaged. In a straight fight, the humans would lose, but Captain Velthan was right about cracks and arrogance. They weren't expecting the humans to attack. "All power to forward shields," Jake ordered. "We're going right at them." "It's suicide," Bennett protested. "No," Jake said, remembering something from his military training. "That's what they won't. Expect the Defiant charged straight at the Kraxan destroyer." The alien ship looked dead from the outside, but Dr. Foster's sensors showed that life still flickered inside its broken hull. Jake Morrison stared at the strange vessel through the viewscreen of the Defiant. This would be humanity's first real contact with another intelligent species. "Bring us alongside," Jake ordered Emma Clark. "But keep us hidden behind that big asteroid. We don't want the Kraxan ship to spot us." Emma carefully moved the Defiant closer to the alien vessel. The ship was much larger than it had looked from far away. Its smooth, curved design was unlike anything humans had ever built. But Jake could see the terrible damage the Kraxan weapons had done. Holes were torn in the hull, and pieces of metal floated in space around it. "I'm reading atmosphere in some sections," reported Alex Turner, "but it's thin. Whatever air they had left is leaking out slowly." Dr. Foster was studying her medical readings. 20 life signs, Jake, but they're all very weak. Some are barely registering at all. Like Ray went, Gaia, I'm God, his decision. "Cole, get your team ready for boarding. We're going over there." Master Sergeant Bennett nodded. "Understood. We don't know what we'll find inside. The survivors might be afraid of us." "That's why Dr. Foster and Katie are coming with us?" Jake said. "We need to show them we're here to help, not hurt them." Danny Brooks had been working on the communication systems. "I've got basic translation software ready. It's not perfect, but it should help us understand simple words." The boarding team put on their spacesuits and checked their equipment. Jake carried a small device that could translate languages. Dr. Foster and Katie Walsh brought medical supplies. Bennett and his Marines carried weapons. But Jake ordered them to keep the guns hidden unless absolutely necessary. They crossed from the Defiant to the alien ship through a connecting tube. The alien ship's airlock was different from human designs, but Alex Turner managed to get it open. The team stepped inside, not knowing what they would find. The inside of the ship was dark and cold. Emergency lights flickered weakly, casting strange shadows on the walls. The air was thin and had a sweet smell that none of the humans recognized. "Hello?" Jake called out. "We're here to help. We received your distress signal." For a moment, there was no answer.
Oh.
Then they heard a sound, like someone crying softly. The sound came from deeper inside the ship. Dr. Foster led the way with her medical scanner. "This way, I'm reading life signs in that direction." They moved carefully through the ship's corridors. The walls were covered with symbols and designs that looked like artwork. Even in their damaged state, Jake could tell the aliens loved beautiful things. In a large room that might have been a meeting area, they found the survivors. Jake stopped breathing for a moment. The aliens were unlike anything he had imagined. Were tall and thin, with smooth skin that seemed to shimmer in the dim light. Their faces were narrow with large eyes that showed intelligence and fear. One of the aliens, wearing what looked like a captain's uniform, struggled to stand when she saw the humans. She spoke in her own language, but the translation device picked up her words. You came. We hoped. We did not dare believe." "I am Captain Jake Morrison," Jake said slowly, speaking clearly so the translator could work. "We are humans. We received your call for help. The alien captain's large eyes filled with tears. I am Captain Zara Velthan. These are my people. We... ... We thought we would die here. Dr. Foster stepped forward with her medical scanner. We are here to help. May I check your injuries? Captain Velthan nodded weakly. As Dr. Foster began examining, the alien captain, Jake, looked around the room at the other survivors. Some were clearly adults, but others were much smaller. Children, just as the distress call had said. The alien children looked terrified when they saw the humans. One of them, barely more than a baby, cried and tried to hide behind an adult. Katie Walsh knelt down slowly, making herself smaller and less threatening. She spoke in a gentle voice. It's okay. We're friends. We're here to help. She couldn't speak the alien language, but her tone was universal. The frightened child stopped crying and looked at her with curiosity. Your people, Captain Velthan? Said to Jake. Why did you come? You do not know us. We are strangers. Jake thought about how to answer. Because you asked for help. Because there are children here. Because it was the right thing to do. Captain. Velthan stared at him for a long moment. The right thing to do, she repeated. Yes, we had heard this about humans. That you help others, even when it costs you. Dr. Foster was working quickly, checking each survivor. Many of them were suffering. From breathing problems because of the thin air. Others had injuries from when the cracks in weapons hit their ship. Jake, Dr. Foster said quietly. We need to get them to the Defiant fast. Some of them won't last much longer in these conditions. But moving 20 injured aliens would take time, and time was something they didn't have. Danny Brooks' voice came through their communicators with bad news. Jake, the Kraxon ship is moving. It's heading this way. Jake felt his heart race. How long do we have? Maybe 20 minutes before they're close enough to detect us? Was it enough time? They needed at least an hour to safely move all the survivors, especially the injured ones and the children. Captain Velthan must have understood what was happening. The Kraxons, she said. They have returned to finish what they started. We won't let that happen, Jake said firmly. We're getting everyone out of here. But even as he said it, Jake wasn't sure how they could do it. The Kraxon ship was much more powerful than the Defiant. In a straight fight, the humans would lose. Captain. Velthan struggled to her feet again. Captain Morrison, there is something you must know. Carracks. They are not just raiders. They are preparing for a great war. They plan to conquer all the peaceful species in this part of the galaxy, including humans? Jake asked. Yes. Your people are on their target list. They know about Earth. They know about your colonies. They were waiting to see if you would interfere with their hunting of other species. Jake realized what this meant. By coming to rescue the Velthani, humans had already interfered. Earth was now at war, whether they wanted to be or not. More reason to get you out of here safely, Jake said. Your people have information we need. The evacuation began. Bennett and his Marines carefully carried the most injured aliens first. Dr. Foster and Katie worked to stabilize everyone for the journey to the Defiant. The alien children were the hardest to help. They were scared and didn't understand what was happening. But Katie had a gift for calming frightened people. She sang softly while she worked, and somehow the alien children understood that the sound meant safety. Mama, one of the alien children said, using a word that sounded almost human. The child was reaching for an adult who had been badly hurt in the attack. Katie gently picked up the child. Mama will be okay, she said. We're going to help Mama. Dr. Foster was amazed at how quickly she was learning about alien biology. They're not that different from us, she told Jake. Water, warmth. Their blood is blue, instead of red, but it carries oxygen just like ours. As they worked, Captain Velthan told them more about what had happened. We are scientists, she explained. We came here to study the nebula. We have no weapons, no military. The Kraxons attacked us without warning, destroyed our engines first so we could not run. Then they used different weapons on us, testing to see which ones worked best. Jake felt sick. They were using you for target practice. Yes, they laughed while they killed my people. They said we were too weak to deserve life. The evacuation was taking too long. Danny's voice came through the communicators again. Jake, the Craxton ship is getting closer. They'll detect us in 10 minutes. Only half the survivors had been moved to the Defiant. The rest were still too injured to move quickly, including several children and Captain Velthan herself. Jake had to make a terrible choice. He could take the survivors they had already saved and leave the rest behind. Or he could risk everyone's lives by staying to complete the rescue. He looked at the alien children, who were still waiting to be evacuated. They looked back at him with eyes full of trust. They believed he would save them. We're not leaving anyone behind, Jake said into his communicator. Emma, prepare for emergency departure. We're taking everyone. Jake, Bennett said urgently, if we don't leave now, none of us will make it. Jake looked at Captain Velthan. She nodded slowly. Your sergeant is right. Save who you can. Do not let all of us die for the sake of a few. But Jake shook his head. That's not how humans work. We don't leave people behind. We don't abandon children. He activated his communicator. Defiant, this is Morrison. We need more time. Can you create a distraction? Emma's voice came back, worried but determined. We'll think of something, Captain. Jake looked around at the aliens he had come to save. Adults and children, scientists and explorers, all of them depending on humans they had never met before today. Hold on, he told them. We're all going home together.